We're going to move on to the next bill. We'll do some homework in the meantime. This is Delegate Ziegler's HB 470, which we've talked about before. This is also for discussion only because we have not really finalized as a subcommittee the direction we want to go here. But as a reminder, what this bill does is it removes the intentionality component of violations of obstructing or modifying your vehicle plate. Right now, this offense, it requires someone to have done it intentionally. And there's been an open question and there's been discussion in this subcommittee about whether removing this intentionality language would make it easier for law enforcement to stop people. And so the reason this bill exists is because we've got a massive problem and an escalating problem in Maryland, but really nationwide, of what are called ghost plates, where you can easily purchase on Amazon some kind of film or plate cover over your license plate that makes it impossible for automated enforcement and for toll cameras to pick up your plate. And this is a big problem, both for just basic revenue of the state and making sure people pay for the roads they're using, but also in terms of people violating the laws. Now, the other element of this, too, that gets tricky that we have not discussed before is that these ghost plates also often prevent identification of cameras that are on, for example, stoplights that law enforcement sometimes uses to catch people after they leave like a murder scene. So, I don't know if you guys have ever watched these true crime television shows before, but the modern way oftentimes that they catch people is they go back and they look at the footage that are on the cameras that are, for example, on stoplights. And they can track the vehicle as it moves from one place to another. Now they can use storefront cameras too, which oftentimes gives them the side view so they can see where the car is going, but they can't see the plate unless they have the stoplight camera usually. And if someone uses a ghost plate, then ta-da, now we can't catch the murderer. So that's what we're getting at here. And the question has basically become, as you can see here in the bill, is replacing this with intent to avoid within a matter that may prevent. And so Patrick and I in the subcommittee have been kicking around a number of ideas. One thing I will note for the committee is that this dovetails into the conversation about what should be a primary and a secondary offense, which is a controversial topic and a conversation that the judiciary is also having. The other thing I'll note is that New York and other states that have taken on this ghost plate topic have also banned the sale of ghost plates in the state. And I think there's an open question about how that works with online retailers that we can look into, but also a number of states have done it. It probably can't hurt to ban the sale, even if it is sometimes difficult to enforce. The other thing, too, that we could look into that I've seen other states tackle is that sometimes if you go buy one of these on Amazon, the retailer will say that they guarantee legal compliance with the ghost plate, which is, of course, absurd because most states have in one way or another banned this. But the retailer is telling them that, oh, yeah, you're safe. This is totally legal. Now, I think another route we could take here, in conjunction with the other ones, perhaps, is making that some kind of unfair and deceptive practice explicitly to tell consumers who are purchasing these that they're going to be in legal compliance if they use them. So that's kind of the background, the panoply of things we're discussing. And Delegate Healy, I see your hand is raised. What I like to do now, though, if it's possible, is to kick it over to our friend Chief Morris, who I'm hoping will provide a little bit more context for us about why the bill is here, namely the extent to which law enforcement can or cannot enforce existing law. Is that okay, Delegate Healy?
Yeah, it sure is. I was just going to ask, can it be treated the same way as removing your license plate, not having one at all? Can it be like in that category of a thing? That's all.
Got it. That is an very interesting point, Delegate Healy. And maybe the chief has some thoughts on that as well. Chief Morris, you've been very patient with us. I really appreciate you hopping on this evening. Could you enlighten us on any and all topics that I did or did not mention?
Well, good evening, everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts with you this evening. Delegate, I think you just about provided every bit of testimony that I could have ever provided. But I will say this: the specific language of the current law with the intent is a very, very high bar to meet from as far as issuing a traffic citation under Title 21 with regards to the rules of the road. So much so that I can quite frankly say that in 40 years and well over 10,000, conservatively speaking, 10,000 traffic stops that I've made, I've never issued a citation for this particular provision under Title 21 simply because of the way the language is written. And I could not conceivably go into a courtroom and testify that I knew what the intent of the driver was. They can simply say, I didn't know, it was decorative, whatever the case may be. I do want to say that this has very little to do with the rims that go around a tag. Whether it's the Commanders, the Chiefs, or the Philadelphia Eagles, or whoever
Hopefully not those last two, officer.
whoever your choice of team might be, the Baltimore Orioles,
Or the
whatever.
Terps.
Or the Terps. There you go. Because quite frankly, those decorative pieces are designed not to obscure the tag, or to block the tag, or to prevent the automated enforcement from capturing the tag. And to your point, as it relates to the sale of these items, you're absolutely right. If you Google it, you'll come up with 100 different advertisements for devices to obscure your tags, or a spray that will blur your tag if captured on an automated enforcement. So it is a challenge, and I know in my conversations with my colleagues in the Maryland Transportation Authority, it's particularly concerning as it relates to the tolls and things of that nature. Equally concerning to those of us that operate automated enforcement, and you're absolutely right, particularly the speed cameras just capture incidents once they've exceeded the 12 miles per hour and it's a still photo. But the automated enforcement on our school buses, the automated enforcement on our red light cameras, those are all video, and they're instrumental in helping us to be able to investigate criminal activity. So with that, the Maryland chiefs and the sheriffs, and looking at this law, and we appreciate Delegate Ziegler and Senator Kagan for bringing it forward. We just think that removing the intent piece will assist from a public safety perspective. I would say that we would support this whether it's as a secondary violation or the first offense being a warning. Almost all of your law enforcement agencies throughout the state now use e-tics. Those e-tics are interconnected. So if a warning is issued by a Prince George's County police officer today for having an obscured tag, and that vehicle were stopped 2 weeks later in Easton, and the officer ran the tag, it would pop up in the Easton officer's e-tics to show that a warning had already been written. So unlike the days of old when I first started and all your warnings were handwritten and there was no way to track a warning, we have the ability to track that now and ensure that motorists are given an opportunity to correct the violation, and those that would choose to continue to ignore it could receive a citation.
That's very helpful. Chief, I got two questions for you myself. So if I'm parked and you see me and I'm in a stoplight and you try to issue me a citation for this, would it be a defense to the intentionality for me to say that it's actually not my car, I didn't put it on there, and it's actually Delegate Addison's car?
Well, that's a fair question, Delegate. And the provisions under Title 13 dealing with registrations go directly to the owner from the owner's perspective.
Right.
This provision is under Title 21, so it holds the operator of the vehicle accountable. And I think it's fair to say that someone says, "Oh, I'm not used to this car. I didn't realize I was doing 85 miles per hour. It's a touchy accelerator." They're responsible for the operation and the safety of that vehicle, and so. I think that's a fair question.
Well, there's a disconnect then, right? Sorry to cut you off, but there's a disconnect because if this is in the operator section, we're actually talking about something that probably happened by the owner, not the operator. And so I think that disconnect thing makes the intentionality problem even more severe, right? Because if you're holding me as responsible as an operator, and there's an intentionality component, how are you ever going to prove that for the operator if it's almost always going to be the owner that placed the protector on there?
Absolutely. If the owner and the operator are two different people, then there's no way to prove the intent of the driver.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I make another point?
Yeah, please do. Please do, Patrick.
Is that this prohibition in Title 21 does not prohibit a person from operating the vehicle with the obscured plate. It prohibits them from intentionally obscuring or modifying the plate.
Right, 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 right,
That's a big
Exactly.
distinction.
Yes,
right,
sir.
right. Okay. Great. Delegate Terrazzo.
So just going back to our last bill discussion about in-rem, like, is this not something? I understand taking out the intent. I actually highly support that. But is it something that could be against the vehicle in the same way, like the same way as red light cameras?
Patrick, do you want to take that?
I don't know if the rationale is the same. I mean, the point of the registration is that we're trying to get people into compliance with important laws.
Registration?
Yeah, register your vehicle here if you live here. Whereas here, this is a rule of the road sort of situation.
Oh, sorry. Can we just talk about, I'm sorry, I may have confused the conversation. What about the same way that we write the ticket goes to the vehicle for a red light camera?
Well, do we want to be towing everybody? I mean, we could always write the ticket to the vehicle.
I think the problem, excuse me, I think the problem is when you stop someone, you stop whoever the driver is, whether they're and if the owner is not
Oh,
present,
okay.
then there's no way of holding the owner accountable at the time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
that's
you.
helpful.
That is helpful.
Delegate Healy.
Yeah, and just again, thinking about how, people can also just take the license plate off. They drive with stolen licenses. They do all kinds of things with the license plates. And you don't know what it is until somebody stops them. And I guess that's what courts are for, to sort all that out, right?
Chief, do you want to talk a little bit about how this compares to someone who just didn't have a plate on their car?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. One, Delegate, we see this a lot on motorcycles where they've bent the tag under, or they've removed the tag in its entirety. That's a whole nother challenge that we have. But likewise, you may see particularly vehicles with the tinted windows where they won't have the tag properly displayed on the rear. It will be displayed in the back window of a pickup truck or the back window of the car, which further obscures it and sometimes makes it very difficult. I'll be honest, I've stopped vehicles thinking that they didn't have any tags on it, only to get close enough and see that the tag is in the back window and obscured by the tint. So does that answer your question, Delegate?
I just kind of asking questions because I'm trying to figure out how this piece of the law fits together with the other pieces of the law about license plates. And, it seems like if we could streamline it and have something that, if it fits into a category that already exists, we might be able to fold it into that. But if not, we could go ahead with what's before us. That's all.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to take this up. I mean, I guess I'll just ask, does anyone have any burning thoughts on either prohibiting the sale or making some kind of unfair and deceptive trade practice to lie to consumers about this? Does anyone have any burning thoughts about whether they do or don't like those ideas?
Can we
I like
add
it.
that? I like it. Yeah.
I like it too.
Mr. Chair, can Maddie, can you scroll down a little bit? I just wanted to point something out to you. It's not on point to what you're saying, but the Title 13 provision, if you'll notice, does prohibit the sale.
And 411.1.
Oh yeah, it's 411.1. Thank you. Yeah, go down a little bit more, Maddie. It's the next section. Thank you, Chief. A little bit more to the next page. Or is that the
That's
last
page I think we've got.
Oh, you didn't get it. Okay, the chief is right though. It's 13-411, and it prohibits the sale of registration plate covers or the advertisement of it. I just
Okay.
wanted you to know that.
Okay.
And also I wanted to ask the chief if he said he hasn't written any citations under Title 21. Do you know of, on anyone in your force or you yourself written citations under Title 13?
Not that I'm aware of, and it's primarily because of the other the moving violation has the intent. It almost seems like there's a conflict. So the idea is someone goes in and says, well, under this, it requires me to prove intent, or requires intent. I didn't intend to do it. So I think to Delegate Healy's point, there's some ambiguity between the two. If that
Okay, so
makes
they
sense.
tie in and it ties your hands.
Right. Yes, sir.
Great. Well, thank you for pointing that out about the registration plate covers. Maybe that speaks to the importance of trying to create some civil liability for these people too, because I'm not sure how difficult it is or how easy it is to prosecute someone from selling it if they're doing it on Amazon. And I'm not sure a prosecutor would necessarily want to take that on. But if we armed a citizen who purchased one of these to sue them, maybe that could be an avenue to spook them out of trying to sell into Maryland. But we'll discuss that more and we'll bring it back. And I'm Jen, Delegate Terrazzo, do you have anything else?
I was just gonna say maybe that's a different bill.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
I really like what we're doing here.
Okay. All right. So we'll take that back and we'll come to the committee with some ideas next week. Really appreciate that discussion. Chief Morris, thank you so much for joining us. That was very enlightening. And I didn't even know that about the whole warning, the e-ticks warning system. I didn't even know. So that was educational for me as well.
Certainly helps from an enforcement perspective. And equally to your point, I think this is an education piece for the consumer. Folks buy things that they don't realize they're not supposed to have.
Right.
When it comes to their vehicles, and education is equal, if not more important than the enforcement, because if we can educate, then we can minimize our enforcement necessities. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again.